I'm back. It's me, Tiffany the Budgetnista, your favorite financial educator, and this is Money Globe from Yahoo Finance, okay? Where I help you with your money, honey. Yes, you might have some financial misconceptions, some myths to bust, and I feel like it's my duty to help you bust past it. What are we going to talk about today? Negotiating. Is negotiating really that serious? Can you really negotiate your way to wealth? Are you leaving money on the table? Yeah, okay? Negotiating is one of the fastest ways to actually put money in your pocket and to help you grow wealth. Don't believe me? Ask Fidelity. They did a study that 58% of young professionals don't negotiate when they're hired. Now here's the issue. 87% that actually do negotiate make more money. That means if you did not negotiate, you are likely to get money that you did not get. You left money on the table. Nobody likes that. And I know negotiating can feel so overwhelming and it can feel so scary because we negotiate in so many areas of our lives. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. So that skill set is going to be really critical for you to develop. And if you think to yourself, well, I need help, Tiffany. Well, I negotiated for someone to join us in the stew today. My friend, my Brown Ambition podcast co-host. She's a career coach. She's a financial educator. She is an amazing human being. Amanda, she would be mad at me for saying that, Woodruff-Santos. Yes, Mandi is in the stew today, and we're going to talk about negotiating, and she's going to help you navigate through it. Let's go to Mandi. Welcome to the stew, Mandi.
Hey, how's it going, Miss Tip?
Does it feel weird to be back at Yahoo Finance? Because, this is your old stomping grounds.
Yeah, it does, kind of. And but you're a Yahoo Finance employee, and I'm the one cutting up now, which is really fun for me.
Too bad you can't get here to come take the free snacks like I used to.
Really full circle. I think it's been 10 years since I interviewed you at Yahoo.
And now I'm interviewing you.
Challenge. And now now it's like, I don't know, heads or tail of it, but I'm here.
Well, I wanted you to come on today because you are the negotiating queen. And the question we want to answer today is, how can negotiating affect my net worth? Okay.
Oh.
So you know best. So let's start from the beginning. Like, when did you learn how to negotiate so well?
I'm so happy that you're asking this question after many years of therapy, because now I really have gotten to the heart of why I'm such a good negotiator. Mm-hmm. It's because I've always gotten a thrill out of making other people, impressing other people with my courage. Mm-hmm. And also gotten a thrill out of doing something that people find uncomfortable and then succeeding at it.
Okay.
And that started for me at a young age. I used to be I was a taller kid, so I could ride the Six Flags roller coasters before I was probably mentally capable of doing it. And I would ride the scariest roller coasters because I would hear my parents be like, wow, Mandi is not afraid of anything. She'll do that. She'll do this. Mm-hmm. Even though I was really scared, whatless. And that really then transitioned to, I had this habit of telling boys that I liked them when I was in school, which we both know I still tend to do. And I have that bit of well, dare me and I'll do it kind of vibe.
Okay.
And even though for me, negotiating is just as stressful as I think it is for other people, mm-hmm. I will push myself over that edge. So I've gone skydiving, I've gone cliff jumping. I'm a mom now, so I need to get my thrills in more safe ways. So for me, it's negotiating.
Well, I've heard you say this over and over and over again, that so many people leave money on the table when they first get hired or when they're going for the job interview. And so what are ways that folks can negotiate when they're actually going to the interview process and maybe they get hired and it's this is this window that you might leave money on the table. Here's how not to.
Okay, so what I try to teach the women that I work with is that the negotiation is not just that people think like you're saying, it's that conversation that happens once you get an offer from them. But my whole strategy that I teach is around thinking of the interview process itself and everything leading up to getting that interview as part of your negotiation. Mm-hmm. Because if you do it correctly, by the time you get that offer, the negotiation is going to be done. And what I mean by that is that your value is going to be so apparent to them, and they're going to be so excited to hire you that they're going to come with their best offer off the jump, right? And I just had a Mandi Moneymaker coaching client come to me and she was like, I got this new offer, Mandi. I want you to take a look at it. It's $35,000 more than what I was making before. They're giving me $300,000 worth of equity. It
Wow.
looks really juicy. Am I doing it wrong? Because I don't know what to negotiate. And I was like, neither do I. This is a great offer. That's how it should feel, right? However, let's say you're at the end of an interview process and maybe you haven't put your best foot forward so much, or for whatever reason, they're going to try to lowball you. You absolutely have an opportunity to negotiate at that point. Just know that it's a bit of a hill to climb because you're almost having to convince them again,
Okay.
after all this is actually what I'm worth, when that should be apparent from the first time they come to you for the opportunity.
So you got to start strong.
And ideally, you're getting poached. You're not applying to a job. Although I do know that you can negotiate even if you come to them and you apply, you're one of many candidates, your resume gets plucked from the top, you interview. Of course, you can still negotiate and, get more. But I do think there's a lot more leverage for people who are poached. So when I say poached, I mean the way that I got my job at Yahoo, I was working at Business Insider, killing it. And an editor from Yahoo was like, I've seen what you've done. We're interested in hiring you. And so she already came to me with an understanding of my value. And then it kind of it shifts the tables of power a little bit because you're the one being pursued. And that's why I always encourage, as part of a negotiation strategy, to always be taking interviews, keeping yourself, be kind and easy to find is like my mantra. And so people can find you to poach you and to give you these opportunities to, get your value.
Well, speaking of which you mentioned like being on the actual job and slaying it. So what if I'm on the actual job? How do I illustrate my value so much so that like, okay, I've already negotiated my salary. I've been here for a number of years, but I want more. How do I position myself so I can get more at the actual job I'm at?
Well, I never encourage anyone to want more just for the sake of wanting more,
Okay.
because they see one of my videos come up on TikTok or Instagram and they're like, yeah, I should want more. I want you to fight that with facts. So if factually you deserve more, you want to go for it. But how do you actually get that information? How do you know if you are undervalued? The single best way to do that is to keep yourself on the job market at all times. That means take those interviews, even if you're not 100% interested in leaving, because there's no real good way to price yourself in the marketplace other than going through the interview process or speaking to recruiters and finding out what you're worth today. What are they actually what's the compensation looking like for roles that you're qualified for? And this is really essential if you've been at some place, I would say longer than 2 to 3 years. You definitely want to be out in the marketplace because you were hired at a certain level at your market rate a couple of years before.
Okay.
That can drastically change. It can change based on whether you have increased your skill set since you joined, you've gotten promoted, you've gotten new certifications or trainings or whatnot. So price yourself in the marketplace again. Go out there, get interviews, ask about
Mhm.
compensation. Luckily, there's states where you have to publish salary ranges now on job listings. So you can just scroll down the line of job listings and see what kind of ranges. And then if you're seeing from that data, okay, my salary is not really at the market rate, well, then you're walking into that conversation, at least with a foundation of fact. And then
Okay.
you don't have to get as, emotional about it or caught up in it. It's like the facts are the facts. Can we do something to get my compensation in line with my market rate? And if the answer is no, cool. Well, you've got job opportunities lined up because you've been taking those interviews, right?
Mhm.
And if the answer is yes, then happy days.
So say that maybe the company has like this restructure and they're having to let you go. This happened to a friend of mine. He worked for an airline. They were restructuring. They were letting him go. And he said, they're offering me severance. We were in our 20s. So we just was like, whoop, whoop. I didn't realize that you could actually negotiate severance until I remember you told me that on our podcast that you helped your brother with his severance package. So what does severance negotiation look like? What should people be asking for?
Don't underestimate the value of shame when it comes to the way
Yes.
that, because yeah, I mean, right? If you were raised by I don't know, really religious parents, you're well aware of the power of shame. But in terms of employers offer a severance package. There's no law that says you must pay employees 16 weeks of severance if you fire them. A lot of times companies are doing that to protect their own reputation so that there's not an article in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal about this mean corporation who's, you've seen these pieces that come out where it's like the viral CEO who fired a bunch of people on Zoom and was like really cold about it. Companies, if they're smart, they want to avoid that. So when I say the power of shame, I mean, if you can go into a severance conversation and show that actually this severance package compared to companies of a similar size in a similar industry is not where it needs to be at, commensurate with my experience and like, what the marketplace is telling us. So again, with my brother, for example, he was working at a startup, a startup that was based in Israel, and it was a tech software startup, and it was only 50 employees. So he wasn't. I told him like, you're not going to be able to go, and I think they were offering him 1 month of severance. I said, you're not going to be able to go to them and say, well, Google's giving its employees, 16 weeks or whatever it is. You've got to go find some, whether it's news articles, company data, internal data, some kind of evidence that companies of a similar size in the same space, what their severance packages look like. And so he did that. He asked around to friends and peers in his network who worked for similar sized companies. A lot of time that information, especially for smaller companies, isn't publicly available. So he worked his sources and he went back and he got 2 months of severance.
Okay.
But there's other things you can negotiate as well. You can negotiate how long you can maintain your health benefits. You can negotiate a non-compete, like not having to sign anything that says that you won't work for another company, another competitor in the future. So it's definitely you have some leverage.
Well, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, so I'm sometimes so nervous about negotiating. I didn't negotiate with my first job, but what can people do to like overcome that fear? Like what for someone who doesn't have that like chutzpah, if you will, that you do, what are some tips you can give people to kind of get over the fear of negotiating so they can negotiate their way toward wealth?
There's a couple different, I mean, I could just say, get on the roller coaster. Just do it. Strap yourself in and there's no going back. So sometimes you just have to push yourself over the edge. That's a piece of it.
Wait, Mandi, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we're going to be right back. And we are back. Mandi, so what were you saying?
But what I find is very helpful, especially for women, because we tend to, the statistics, the same ones that I know, where it's like women are less likely to apply for a job unless they fit 9 out of the 10 requirements, whereas men, it's like, oh, I fit 3, bet I'm perfect for this. So we like to know factually or feel confident that like on paper, this is likely that I'm going to succeed. So that's why I'm always encouraging women to stay in tune with your market rate. So be interviewing, be paying attention to job listings and the salary ranges. Talk to one another, share information with peers of yours at different companies. What are you earning? What do your compensation packages look like? It may not be your base salary. For a lot of people, it's negotiating those extras like equity, stock options, RSUs. It's negotiating time off, a sign on bonus, a spot bonus, a title change. There's all different ways. And you'll be more likely to feel confident if you know other people are doing it and that you're not crazy for asking for what you think you deserve because you're seeing the marketplace actually being able to provide that. So that's my biggest tip for at least being able to like strap yourself into the roller coaster, but do it with a little bit less trepidation because you're like, okay, I'm not the only one on this ride.
So we've talked about negotiating at the job, but negotiating doesn't just end there, right? There's so many ways to negotiate external to in your real everyday life. What are some of your favorite ways to negotiate, that are outside the job that put money in your pocket?
I was gonna say I have a 4-year-old, so I negotiate all the and the great thing about negotiating with the 4-year-old is they don't always know what kind of power they have because he really could get anything he wants just by screaming long enough, but he doesn't exactly know that. Okay, so everyday negotiations. I mean, I think if you're someone who is uncomfortable, even speaking out loud or disagreeing with someone, you want to start flexing that muscle as soon as possible. So I don't think enough of us are in conversation with people who have different views than us at all these days. And it's like a dying skill set to the art of a debate, the art of we both want something. We have to work together to get there, but we want different things. So, how do I win something and you win something? And how can you bring yourself to more of those compromises? If you're in a relationship, I think you have lots of opportunities to negotiate. My husband and I negotiate all the time. You can negotiate the holidays are coming up. anyone who gets stressed about how much time are we going to spend with this side of the family, that side of the family. I got family in 3 different states. I'm constantly trying to maintain everyone's expectations. Like, I'm not booking my flight before November. I'm going to let y'all know. That's a negotiation. Asking for a refund of something that you didn't like at a restaurant, or asking for it to be taken off the bill. That's an opportunity to negotiate. There's all sorts of things.
Okay. Well, what are
Medical
some
bill?
Yeah, well, yes, you already know I'm the medical bill, especially back when in my 20s when I was like, who has insurance? I just drink water and do yoga on occasion. So there's so many misconceptions about negotiating that like somebody has to completely lose, or like, if you're both not angry, like what are some common misconceptions? Can you bust some of those myths that people might be carrying about
Yeah.
negotiating?
I think that there's the societal sort of story that whether it's something that we're told directly or just absorb indirectly from media and entertainment, is that negotiating is a very masculine thing to do, that it's like guys at the golf course, clinking beers and doing whatever one does at a golf course. I would not know personally. But when it comes to the actual negotiation, it doesn't have to be contentious. You don't have to have a firm handshake. In fact, you don't have to shake anybody's hand if you don't want to. Your body, your choice. A negotiation is a conversation. It's where you want something, they want something. And I think women are uniquely powerful when it comes to negotiating, because we're already so in tune with our emotional our EQ tends to be so high. We can sense changes in mood, changes in relationships. We're great at building those relationships. And when you kind of go to the table with already some goodwill with the other person, don't let them take advantage of you or think that they can get one over you. But because you have that level of goodwill, you can come to them and say, like, I know that this is a huge business initiative for you guys. We're on this great growth trajectory. You want to expand the team, but I do want to talk about this compensation because I want to be a part of that growth. I want to be here to grow with the company, but I have to be honest with myself. And right now, I'm being undervalued for my contributions and what the marketplace says I'm worth these days. So I think we can both get to an agreement where we both walk away feeling like we've gotten something out of this. And that is, for me, a healthy negotiation. It's when you both walk away feeling like you've gotten something, and it's not like I took them for all they were worth, or ooh, we really got her for a cheap price. Like, that's not what it should be like.
So, last quick question. Like, if you could give me the best piece of negotiating advice that you've ever gotten, quickly,
Mhm.
what is it?
Multiple job offers all the time. This is another great. So, on top of staying active and taking those interviews and finding out your value in the marketplace at all times, actually having multiple offers, it does a negotiation for you. You can show up to a conversation with your boss, hand shaking, palm sweaty, vomit on your sweater already, mom spaghetti. You can be super nervous, but if you just hand them that piece of paper and it's like, well, Google says they're going to pay me 50% more. That's a fact. Like, how are they gonna you don't have to have the right presentation. It's just like, here's this offer. What are you gonna do about it? So that's why I really believe in multiple offers. And the biggest negotiations that I've helped through coaching, it has been through the biggest gains in compensation I've seen have come when women have had at least 1 or 2 external offers that they can leverage. And sometimes you don't even need a hard, cold offer. Just the knowledge that you are interviewing and getting interest from outside employers, that can be enough to get you what you want from your current employer. Just the whiff of you maybe leaving can sometimes help.
Well, I always like to do a little kind of like takeaway roundup because some people need a little extra credit. So you tell me if I get an A or not. If I'm going to give you some basic takeaways that I took away from this negotiation masterclass from Mandi of Mandi Money Makers, if you will. Okay. One, that you need to start negotiating early, whether it's early in your career or early in the job interview process. So like the earlier, the better, right? So number one, that's one takeaway I took away. Another takeaway that I took from you is that the preparation will help with the nervousness. If you're not someone who could just go for it, strap in, that the more prepared you can be, the more questions you can ask of your coworkers, the more research you can do about how much you should actually be making, that preparation can help you overcome whatever nervousness you might have about negotiating. And the third and last thing is that what you just said, the more offers on the table. I mean, like sometimes women only date one or two people. It's like, girl, if you don't get out there and just date multiple people so you're not stressed and pressed, you know? And so the same thing when it comes to, you know, whatever offers you're looking for, and that to have multiple offers on the table, this enables you to feel a little bit more confident and enables folks to know that you are hot and they better strike while the iron is hot or they're going to miss out on you. How did I do with my takeaways?
10 out of 10, no notes.
Okay.
That's my girl.
If y'all don't know, me and Mandi have a podcast together, Brown Ambition. So one, I just want to say thank you so much for coming, Mandi. You are always a delight. And thank you for those of y'all watching. You're my girl, my homie, and my co-podcast host over at Brown Ambition. If you need any sort of financial help after listening to this episode, head on over to getgoodwithmoney.com. This has been Money Glow Up from Yahoo Finance. You can find me every Thursday right here, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at yahoofinance.com. Also, wherever you stream podcasts, there I am. I'm here to help you debunk some of those money myths. And remember, do not leave money on the table. Negotiate.